Wahoo, hey, I've got the story of inspiration today. Okay, so I feel like I'm pretty good at telling you guys stories. I feel like I'm pretty good about giving you information. What I don't think I'm really good at is telling you stuff about me. You know, it's really hard to reach into ourselves and come up with stuff. So here's the thing. I've been cycling, my sport, cycling, I've been doing for decades. I love cycling, and there's a lot of reasons I love cycling. And there's two stories behind it that people keep telling me I need to share. I'm going to share one of those two stories. So what drives us? What makes us do the things that we do? I was reading an article recently, and it was talking about this Navy SEAL. And he says in the Navy SEALs, and I don't know, I'm not a Navy SEAL, I only know what this guy says, so I don't know if this is a thing with the Navy SEALs, but it's a thing with this Navy SEAL, apparently. And what he said is they go by the 40% rule. The 40% rule is your brain is going to tell you to stop when you've done about 40% of what you can really do. We can all do so much more than we think we can do. We're all so much stronger than we think we are. I completely believe that. That article resonates with me. This is what I have found. This is what I have found for myself when I push myself on endurance events, but it's also what I found in coaching people. When I'm teaching indoor cycling, when I'm coaching people to be better cyclists, I find that they start shutting down when they've got just an enormous amount left that they can do. Several years ago, something awful happened. My son in the 7th grade got a horrible head injury. It didn't affect how he thought about things. It affected his ability to stand up and walk around. His balance was gone. They said he would never ride a bike again. So as he's getting better and moving from a wheelchair to crutches and from crutches to a cane and learning how to walk and spending years doing this, the bike that he got for his birthday present in the 7th grade, just weeks before the head injury, was hanging from the garage ceiling. And I said, "Hey Luke, what do you want me to do with this bike?" And Luke says, "Well, we're going to keep that bike because I'm going to learn how to ride it again." The doctor said that would never happen. But here's the thing. It did happen. Luke put the big picture ahead of him. I'm going to learn how to ride that bike again. And he put the small steps ahead of him for each step that he needed to take. First, get out of that wheelchair and learn how to walk with crutches. Second, get rid of those crutches and learn how to walk with a cane. Third, get rid of that cane. Learn how to walk without any assistance. Learn how to run. And finally, get on that bike and learn how to ride that bike. And last year, Luke did the Davis Double Century with me. His first long ride, 200 miles in a day ride. He did that ride. I mean, that was such an incredible inspiration to me. He was 18 years old. He had the head injury when he was 12 or 13. Anyway, took him years to get there, and he did that. And I can't tell you what that means for me. In May of 2014, I fell down and I shattered my hip. So most people who shatter their hip are not athletes. And most people who get hip replacements, which is what happened with me, don't continue to be athletes. The year before I broke my hip, I did the Davis Double Century on my single speed. 200 miles, one day, lots of climbing. I was very proud of myself. Fantastic. 2014, I was in shape to do the Davis Double. And the Davis Double was the 3rd week of May, and it was the 1st week of May when I broke my hip, so obviously that was not happening. That all turned into a year of rehab. But in that year of rehab, what I decided is I am going to be as strong a year after breaking my hip as I was the day before I broke my hip. So I scheduled the Davis Double Century single speed for 2015. People think that this is amazing. They tell me that was even crazy, even aggressive that I did that. It was not beyond possibility. The doctors all said this is reasonable if you stay on your training, stay on your physical therapy, do the things we tell you to do. This is completely reasonable. Most people won't do that. Comes back to that 40% rule. 40%, the brain says, yeah, you're done. You can't do this anymore. And I said, no, I know this is possible, so therefore I am going to do that. But it wasn't just what was in my head. A huge part of what happened inside my head is I looked at what my son did. And so that year, when I went and rode the Davis Double with my brand new hip, that was a year Luke came with me to ride the Davis Double. First long ride for him after a head injury. First ride for me with the new hip. This is something that people look at you and they say, "You're crazy, you're nuts, you can't do this." It wasn't crazy and it wasn't nuts. It was within the realm of possibilities, but it was beyond that 40% where our brains tell us you can't do that. In Luke's case, doctors told him he couldn't do that, and he said, "Well, screw that, I can do that." In my case, the doctor said you could do it, but it's probably going to hurt. It's probably going to be pretty hard. It's going to require focus and dedication. It was well beyond that 40% where your brain says, you can't. And I said, yes, I can. Yes, I can do that. And I did that. And in that training, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot more about how to coach. It's amazing as how a coach, a life incident like injury that you have to rehab from, helps you understand better how to help the people you're coaching better. So where I'm going with this is that 40% rule that I heard about just the other day, that Navy SEAL idea that at 40% our brains tell us to stop. This is completely true. If I listened to that 40%, I wouldn't have done the Davis Double. I probably would not be riding my single speed. I would have sold it. I mean, frankly, riding a single speed with a new hip is really hard. Building the strength back in that leg so that I can climb hills without shifting down. That 40% rule comes into play right there. I would have sold that bike. But I said, no, I can do this. And where I am now is I want you to be able to do this. I want you to be able to look at that 40% and say, 40%, I'm going to do the whole 100%. That's where I'm going. That's the whole point of the Bike Lab. That's the whole point of my coaching. Get you to get past that 40%, get to that 100%. Share, subscribe, like, wahoo hey.